and Appeals. We are going to call the meeting to order. Please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Ms. Kim, roll call, please.
Chairwoman Smith Rodriguez.
Here.
Vice Chairman Taylor.
Here.
Member Beckles. Here. Member Van Dieven.
Here.
Member Wheelis.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the July 24th meeting minutes. So if you want to take a look at that, I'll entertain a motion when ready.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for July 24th, 2024.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
I have a second. Any discussion? No? All in favor? Aye. And hearing 5 ayes, no opposed. All right, moving on to what we're actually here to do. I'm going to cover a couple of the quasi-judicial procedures. So, hold on. Go back. See, there I did it like Al does. I scrolled down too fast. Okay. All right, I'm going to read a notice first. All persons who anticipate speaking on any public hearing item must fill out an oath card to be heard on that agenda item and sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located on the table near the entrance to the council chamber, or they may be obtained from our recording secretary. This meeting will be conducted in accordance to the procedures adopted in Resolution 24-1997. Those speaking in favor of a request will be heard first, those opposed will be heard second, and those who wish to make public comment will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if necessary. A representative from either side, for or against, may cross-examine a witness. Anyone who speaks is considered a witness. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire for the board to consider, they must be submitted into evidence and will be retained by the city. You may submit those exhibits to our recording secretary. Sir, you are a party of one in here. Did you fill out your oath card? I did. Okay. All right. To our staff, have the items been properly advertised?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. And to our members, have any of you or us visited the sites or spoken to any members of the public regarding our agenda items? No. No across the board and no for me. We have no consent agenda nor old business, which moves into new business, which first pertains to the election of officers for the BAA, which is found on PDF page 8. The Board of Adjustments and Appeals, officers and staff of the bylaws of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, requires that its first regular meeting in August, the board shall, by a majority vote of its membership, excluding vacant seats, elect one of its members to serve as chairman and preside, I think it should be preside, over the board's meetings, and one member to serve as vice chair, who shall preside in the absence or withdrawal of the chairman. So I guess before we get to that, I do have an announcement to make for myself. I will not be eligible to serve on this board effective, really, December 31st would be the last opportunity that I would be permitted to serve on this board due to a new position that I'm taking. So I will be finishing out the year, and then there'll be, in theory, another vacancy. How many vacancies do we have now? Anybody?
One.
Just one?
Just one alternate's position is open.
Okay. Okay. So, I've enjoyed serving as the chair, and I would love to continue doing so, but I'm only going to be here through December, so it's not always practical. Any other interest in serving as the chair? No. Dr. Beckles like, no. Mr. Wheels, no. Ms. Van Dieven says no. Al, back to you.
Hey, don't have to train me. I know it's on page 1.
I know. Are you interested in serving starting next month or next year? What do you want to do?
I will serve at whatever time period
Okay.
they say we take over.
Okay, so then the next meeting in September would be the first go, yes?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so we still have to make an actual vote. So Al Taylor has offered to serve.
Do we have someone that was volunteered to be vice chair? Vice chair.
Okay, all right. Margaret Van Dieven has volunteered to be vice chair. Dr. Rickles, are you interested or no? Oh, no, I was just saying. She's waving off. Okay. All right, so we have a proposed slate of chair and vice chair. Any discussion amongst ourselves? No? Okay. Do we have to do a formal vote, Kim? Yeah?
You can do consensus.
Okay. So I'm just gonna formally say then, for all in favor of Mr. Al Taylor serving as our chairman going forward come September, aye?
Aye.
And our vice chair to be filled by Ms. Margaret Van Deven. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
An aye for me on both. Okay, fantastic.
Congratulations.
I know, right? All right, moving on to PDF page 10. It is variance number 18-2024 at 4260 Alpine Lane. Staff.
Thank you and good evening. This is for variance 18-2024 for 4260 Alpine Lane. The applicant is requesting a variance to the Land Development Regulations, Chapter 30, Section 30-182A1, to allow more than the required 4-foot maximum height for a fence or wall in any required front yard setback for a property located in the single-family high-density zoning district located at 4260 Alpine Lane, as submitted by Charles Federley, III, owner. The subject property is .48 acres, and the lot is a corner lot with approximately 119 linear feet of frontage on Maple Place and 170 linear feet of frontage along Alpine Lane. These dimensions meet the minimum 6,500 square foot lot area and 65-foot width requirements for the R1C zoning district. The use is a detached single-family residence constructed in 1957. For the powers of the BAA, LDR Section 34-226 states that the board shall grant a variance request when, in the opinion of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, owing to special conditions, the literal enforcement of such ordinance or regulations would do manifest injustice to or impose an unnecessary hardship upon the applicant. In order to authorize any variance to the provisions of such ordinance, the board must consider the following criteria. Special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, and which are not applicable to other land, structures, or building in the same zoning. Special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. Granting the variance requested will not confer upon the applicant any special privilege that is denied by ordinance to other lands, buildings, or structures in the same zoning district. The literal interpretation of the provisions of the ordinance would deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district under the terms of the ordinance. The variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. The granting of the variance will preserve the spirit of the ordinance and remain in harmony with its general purpose and intent. In granting the variance, the public safety and welfare must be assured, and in no case shall granting of the variance result in a change of use which would not be permitted in that zone. The applicant is requesting a variance to the land development regulations to allow for the construction of a fence 6 feet in height within the 25-foot front yard setback along Maple Place, which is 2 feet taller than the maximum permitted height of 4 feet. Section 30-139 of the LDR states that the front setback of a corner lot shall be that yard abutting the street with the least frontage unless otherwise determined on a recorded plat or in a recorded deed. The Brevard County Property Appraiser's website shows the house was built in 1957 as part of the Indian River Highlands. The plat for Indian River Highlands was created in 1957. There are no notes specifying the frontage on the recorded plat or on the recorded deed. However, the property is made up of lots 9, 10, 11, and 12 of Block 13 of the plat, all which have their narrowest frontage along Alpine Lane. The house was constructed in 1950 on lots 9 and 10 to face Alpine Lane. Brevard County Property Appraiser records show that lots 11 and 12 were added to the property in 2002. The combination of these lots changes the configuration of the applicant's property to a corner lot with approximately 119 linear feet of frontage on Maple Place and 176 linear frontage along Alpine Lane. These dimensions would require the front setback to be measured along Maple Place. The lot does not have any special conditions or circumstances that would prevent the installation of a fence 4 feet in height along Maple Place, and the applicant also has the ability to add vegetative buffer along the 4-foot high fence to provide additional screening. The request does not appear to be the minimum variance necessary because the applicant has options to comply with the code. Staff recommends denial of the variance. There are no special conditions or circumstances that exist which are peculiar to the land. The variance is not the minimum necessary to make possible reasonable use of the property, and the literal interpretation of the code would not deprive the owner of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zoning district.
Thank you. Any questions to staff?
Yeah, this interpretation of whichever lot is the smallest dimension on the street is the front yard, whereas this house was obviously built in 57 with the front door facing a different street. So why are we considering this, the short lot as the front yard? Because then you got front yard, you got front yards all over the place. What is the meaning, or what is the theory behind that, the shortest distance being the front yard setback, instead of the actual distance that are facing of the house? And I assume that is the mailing address now.
Alpine, yes.
Alpine is the mailing address, not Maple, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because it previously, Maple wasn't a part of the property because when they added on lots 10, or lots 11 and 12, it changed the configuration. And then by the definition of what the front yard setback is, because that LDR 30-139 is a definition of the front yard setback, and it is it's the yard abutting the street with the least frontage. So it's the definition that's outlined in the code.
So to follow up with that, in theory on this particular property, what is the actual front yard of the property, not by definition, could technically have a 6-foot fence,
It would still need to be set back 25 feet.
right? Okay. Any other questions?
Is that because now with the added lots, it's a corner property? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. First card, please.
Charles Federley?
Sir, come on up to the podium, please, and start off by stating your name and address.
Good evening. My name's Charles Federley III, and I live at 4260 Alpine Lane here in Titusville.
Proceed with whatever it is you think we need to know to make a decision.
Okay. When I originally purchased the home, I thought that side lot was beautiful. It would make an excellent backyard. I know it's kind of weird because it's on the side of the house, but, you know, I envisioned a nice fence, a dog, you know, something I haven't had since I was a kid. And, you know, I was hoping to start a family in that house. And realistically, if I knew that this was how it was going to go, I wouldn't have bought the house. Because I saw that and I was like, okay, this is the backyard. And now it's kind of, you know, half side yard, half front yard. So I was hoping that I could use that side lot as my backyard.
Anything else that you want to share?
I don't believe so.
Okay, stand by. Any of our board members have questions for the applicant?
Okay, just for clarification, the fence that they're saying is not allowed is the fence that's on Maple? Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. So, are you wanting to put 6 foot on the street, on the Alpine side also,
Yes, sir.
which would fall under that 25 feet, correct?
So the Alpine would be subject to the side corner, which would be allowed to be the 6-foot fencing along Alpine. There is a visibility triangle that they would have to set back. So I believe on page 23, it has kind of an outline of what that would look like for the 6-foot fencing. And so without the variance, he would need to place that along Maple with a 25-foot setback, but would be allowed to have the 6-foot to the property line on Alpine.
And the street to the to the west would be allowed to have a 6 foot also?
That's an interior side on the west. Right. I'm looking,
No, it's not.
hang on, I'm sorry.
Not the way I understand it. It's well, maybe it is an interior, all right. all right.
Yeah, the other two the side and rear are interior, and they would be allowed to have the 6 foot.
Okay, so that would be. So basically, you're saying from the corner of the house all the way to the back corner on Maple would all be 4 foot, the way that the code is set. Is that correct?
I believe so. I was just hoping to use lots 11 and 12 as the backyard, so I could have it 6 foot, pretty much the whole perimeter except for that visibility triangle.
All right, so that, staff, could you clarify that for me
So
then?
we did offer to complete an administrative interpretation for the front yard to remain as Alpine, but that would still require the 25-foot setback along Alpine, and then to go, then it could be 6 foot around Maple and all the way. And then moving forward with the current, with the way the definition is, without the interpretation, anything he would like to place in lots 11 or 12 moving forward would require a variance, because that's technically the front yard. A swimming pool wouldn't be able to be placed within the front yard with with the way the definition of the front yard is. A shed or anything would not be able to be placed there. With the interpretation, the administrative interpretation to allow Alpine to remain the front yard, or to be the front yard, with the addition of the two lots, would allow him to have those requests in the future without needing a variance.
To clarify, Tabitha, the 6 foot fence on the technical front yard could be placed 25 foot back from
Yes,
the property line.
it could be placed 25 foot back from the property line at 6 foot, or along the property line at 4 foot, and then you can always add your vegetative buffer. There's no height restriction.
So why was the administrative interpretation not requested or followed through?
Because
Sir, did you have a discussion with staff about administrative interpretation, like she just said?
I did, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what are your thoughts?
Well, I was hoping that, I know it looks like the front is Alpine, or Maple, but I was hoping that that whole side lot, 11 and 12, would be considered my backyard, so I could encompass it with a 6 foot fence around the perimeter, not including that triangle.
I hear you. I guess I'm confused. Can you, if an administrative interpretation is or was followed through with, where are we at on that for this? What applies,
So along Alpine,
right?
the longer front of the lot, like side of the lot, the fence would need to be set back 25 feet.
Which I guess it's not possible?
Procedurally, has the administrative interpretation been initiated?
No.
And what needs to happen for that to happen?
That would need to go through to the administrator to be completed.
And so I think the question was for the applicant, why didn't you go forward with that process?
Okay, I'm sorry. So the reason I didn't want to go through with that is because I'd have to set it back on lots 11 and 12. And I was hoping that would be considered my backyard, so I wouldn't have to set it back.
So you don't want to push it in 25 feet into your backyard?
Correct.
So practically speaking, if an administrative review was done, interpretation was granted, the way that we've just been talking about, the fence would be there. It would just be 25 feet cut in. And then in the future, a shed, a swimming pool, whatever else could really go there with no issue.
Correct, pending that those future shed or anything met the other required code requirements.
And if this request for the variance is not granted today, the 4 foot fence would be along Maple. And then
Or-
how tall against Alpine?
6 foot,
The whole length of Alpine could be 6 foot,
except for the visibility triangle for the corner.
but it still has to be set back? How
Not
far?
along Alpine,
At all?
no.
But Maple has to be set back?
Yes, with
25
the current
feet.
definition. It has to be set back 25 feet for 6 feet.
And how far back for 4 feet?
None at all,
Just property line?
property line.
So, sir, I don't know what your plans are for this property. but have you considered all that?
Yes,
In
ma'am, I
Deciding
did.
whether you are gonna do something in the future in your backyard?
Well, as of now, I was hoping to get a dog, and I know a dog would jump over a 4-foot fence most likely. But I spent, a lot of money on that yard, on that lot, hoping I could use it. And if it's cut back on, either side because of my front yard issue, it's kind of, I feel like I made a bad decision and, I wouldn't have purchased the house.
All right, any other questions for our applicant? No? All right, so you can have a seat. Any questions by the board for staff?
I guess ask counselor on this one. Right now it's set up as different lots. Were he to make this all one piece of property, would those lot lines disappear?
It is one piece of property.
I know, but it still says lots, and so therefore the setbacks are there. I mean, if it were just one contiguous big number, shall we say, from the tax appraiser's office as a lot, would that still apply?
Yes. Those lot lines are relatively insignificant to the determination that you're making. They do not impact the property's ability to have a fence where the applicant is requesting to put it. The lines that were platted do not impact what the setback is. The analysis for the variance looks purely at what placement for the fence is requested as it applies to the parcel being X number of feet in length and width. And based on the staff making a determination based on the length and width of the single lot, that the determination is that the code says Maple is the front yard, and the front yard setbacks apply to the Maple-facing portion of the property. And based on that, the applicant's requesting a variance to allow a 6-foot fence in the front yard setback as it's presented.
How many feet are from Alpine to the house? Is that on one of these pieces of paper?
It is not on the survey.
Come up to the microphone, please.
If you mean the two lots, I think it's
Yeah.
88 feet.
No, from the property line to the front of the house,
So,
Oh,
which is not on the
yeah,
survey.
so on page 23.
120?
Page 24 has a survey with measurements,
20
I don't think
and
it
you can
shows
see the width of each lot. 12 and 11 are 44. I think that's what you're looking at.
Okay. Well, because I was thinking in strict definition terms, if somebody wanted to put a swimming pool, like a lap pool, right on Alpine where the driveway is, that's technically considered the backyard then? And that would be permissible, despite it in reality being the front yard? Where's the front door?
Sorry.
Well, Alpine,
Thing
they're
keeps-
saying Alpine's a front yard by definition. Oh, no, you're right, Maple, right. So-
would be the side corner yard.
So in theory, a pool, like a small lap pool could go right there.
Off Alpine where the driveway is, pending
Yeah.
that it met all setbacks in theory.
Yeah. Well, sir, I'm sorry to call you, you're welcome to sit back down if you want. I mean, to me, the spirit of the code is still met by allowing a 6-foot fence on Maple, but I have concerns about then this just snowballs for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. The administrative interpretation sounds quite reasonable, but I understand it's gonna cut a good chunk of the grass off on the one side. I also understand that it's quite reasonable to put a 4-foot fence in bamboo. Any discussion? further?
By putting a 6-foot fence at 25 feet back off of Maple, running parallel to Maple on that, what's described as the front yard, that's a legal approach, correct?
Yes.
He could put a 6-foot fence, 25 feet
Yeah, 6-foot fence,
back off of
25 foot
Maple.
back off Maple. Yes, sir.
That would leave in excess of 60 feet between the house and the fence in order to put in a pool and yard and whatnot. It's not an unreasonable requirement. It's, and yeah, it's unfortunate that, there's no way to address this that would work for everyone, but if we look at, the overhead photograph, it shows that there's a residence directly across the street on Maple that would be facing your 6-foot fence, which is probably not a desirable outcome.
If there's no more discussion or questions to our applicant or staff, I will entertain a motion when ready. So basically what this comes down to is whether it's to be in compliance with everything, whether we shave off 25 feet off of Maple or 25 feet in from Alpine, right?
Pretty much it.
So that all can be done without a variance. One could be done with an administrative interpretation. And granting the variance. Not a problem for a dog, will be a problem for a pool and everything else. Sir, it's gonna be a minute, you can sit down.
Okay. Thank you.
The administrative remedy that they were talking about, he just flat out refused to do that, or is that still an option for him?
I think it's still an option, but it sounds like the applicant didn't want to lose the 25 feet from Alpine inward.
So this is really all about that 25 feet. I mean, that, yeah, okay.
Madam Chairwoman, I won't be able to support an approval for variance.
Am I to interpret your statement as a motion to deny the variance 18-2024?
You may.
I have a motion to deny the variance. Reason required first. If, Mr. Willis, if you would please offer a reason for your motion, which those grounds are found on page 17 of your PDF.
It gives rights to the property owner that are not available to other citizens.
Okay, I have a motion to deny. Do I have a second?
I second it.
I have a second. Any further discussion amongst ourselves? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Chairwoman Smith Rodriguez,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Taylor,
Unfortunately, yes.
Member Beckles,
Yes.
Member Van Deven,
Yes,
Member Wheelis.
Yes.
So, sir, I want to make sure you understand, that was a motion to deny your variance. And we are all voted yes to deny the variance. It's not to say you don't have options. It sounds like you might want to get back with the city and consider other options, maybe an administrative if that's still on the table, or perhaps just moving the fence in. So you have a very unique set of circumstances. We understand it. There's just a lot of rules. So thank you for your time and attendance. You're free to go. All right, bringing us back to our agenda items. Any petitions or requests from the public present? Seeing none. Any reports? Staff?
No.
No? Ms. Farrell? No.
We're gonna miss you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss this. I really enjoy this board. I don't even know how many years it's been. I think it's been almost maybe 10, 9? I don't know. So,
Only 11 or 12.
no, really?
Yeah, I've been retired for 10 years, and you were on the board when I was still building official.
started, and I haven't been here 11 yet.
I did, yeah. I'll have to Google this later. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to serve on this board. I've enjoyed serving as the chairman of the board, and I will miss it. And I do hope that you all can fill what's going to be 2 vacancies. So I'll be here through December. So I think that's 3 more meetings, right? September, October, and a joint season meeting. Okay. Aside from my news, any other information from the board that you'd like to share?
Do we have a meeting next month? Do you know?
I have 2 variances currently, so yes.
Okay. All right, folks, then that's it. We'll see you in September. Meeting adjourned.